Why is it that the smallest things can steal your calm? A careless word, a delayed message, a moment that doesn't go your way. Before you know it, your peace is gone. And you're reacting instead of deciding. Most people believe calm is a personality trait, that some are born with it and others are not. Stoicism teaches a harsher, more empowering truth. Calm is not luck. It is discipline. You don't lose your calm because life is difficult. You lose it because you allow external events to command your inner state. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Nothing has power over your mind unless you give it permission. Today, you'll learn 12 Stoic principles that train your mind to remain steady, under pressure, under disrespect, under chaos. This is not about avoiding emotion. It's about mastering it. If you're tired of being affected by everything around you, stay with me. And as we begin, remind yourself, my calm is my power. 1. Calm begins with accepting reality. Most people lose their calm not because life is unbearable, but because they keep arguing with reality. They say, this shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't act this way. Things should be easier by now. And in that silent resistance, tension is born. Stoicism begins with a hard but liberating truth. Reality does not care about your preferences, but your peace depends on accepting what is. The moment you fight reality, you create friction inside yourself. That friction shows up as anger, anxiety, frustration, and exhaustion. The Stoics had a word for this acceptance: amor fati, to love fate, not because it is pleasant, but because it is inevitable. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that events happen according to nature, not according to his wishes. His calm did not come from controlling outcomes, but from aligning his mind with what had already occurred. This is where most people get it wrong. They think acceptance means weakness, that if you accept reality, you stop trying. Stoicism says the opposite. Acceptance is not giving up. It is stopping the internal war so you can act clearly. Think about how often calm is lost in ordinary moments. Traffic slows you down. Someone cancels last minute. A plan fails. A person disappoints you. The event itself is neutral. The stress comes from the thought, this shouldn't be happening. That single sentence is where calm dies. Epictetus taught that suffering begins when we demand reality be different from what it is. The demand creates resistance. Resistance creates emotional turbulence. But when you replace resistance with acceptance, something shifts. You stop wasting energy wishing. You stop replaying how things should have gone. You stop tightening against what already exists. And calm returns. Acceptance sounds simple, but it is not passive. It sounds like this. This is what's happening. Now what is the best response? Notice the difference. You move from complaint to command, from emotion to decision. Acceptance clears the fog. When you accept reality, your mind stops spiraling. Your breathing steadies. Your attention returns to what you can actually do. This is why acceptance is the first principle of calm. Without it, every other Stoic tool fails. You cannot pause effectively if you are still arguing with reality. You cannot control judgments if you are resisting facts. You cannot remain calm while mentally shouting no at life. Acceptance is the ground beneath calm. Here is a simple practice you can use immediately. When something disrupts you, say out loud if needed, "This is what is." Not sarcastically, not bitterly, but clearly. Then follow it with one question. What is within my control right now? This two-step shift is powerful. It cuts off emotional escalation. It restores clarity. It returns agency. Calm does not mean you like what's happening. It means you stop letting dislike control you. Over time, this practice changes your nervous system. Unexpected events stop shocking you. Delays stop provoking you. People's flaws stop destabilizing you. Not because life becomes smoother, but because your mind becomes steadier. This is Stoic calm, not fragile, not dependent on conditions, but rooted. Remember this: resistance creates tension, acceptance creates calm. The sooner you accept what is, the sooner your mind is free to respond wisely. And a calm mind, grounded in reality, cannot be easily shaken. 2. You don't control events, only judgments. Most people believe events disturb them. A harsh word, a sudden loss, an unexpected setback. But Stoicism cuts deeper. Events don't steal your calm. Your judgment about them does. This distinction changes everything. Two people can face the same situation. One remains composed, the other collapses. The difference is not strength, it is interpretation. Epictetus stated it plainly. It is not things themselves that trouble us, but the opinions we form about them. That single sentence explains why calm feels so rare. Because most people never question their judgments. They treat thoughts as facts, reactions as truth. The moment something happens, the mind rushes to label it. This is bad. This is unfair. This is disrespect. This means I'm losing. And the body follows the story. Heart rate rises. Breathing tightens. Emotions surge. Calm disappears. Not because of the event, but because of the meaning assigned to it. Here is the Stoic shift. An event is neutral until you decide what it means. Traffic is just traffic. A delay is just time passing. Someone's behavior is just their behavior. The disturbance enters when the mind adds a verdict. This is not denial. It is precision. Stoicism teaches you to separate what happens from what you say about what happens. Most people collapse these into one. They say, I'm upset because this happened. But the Stoic asks, what am I telling myself about this? That question creates space, and space restores calm. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he could erase the judgment, and with it, the disturbance. Not by force, but by clarity. You cannot stop events, but you can stop exaggerating them. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control interpretation. This is where calm becomes practical. Consider a common trigger. Disrespect. Someone speaks sharply, ignores you, dismisses your effort. The automatic judgment is, they don't respect me. That judgment triggers anger. Anger triggers reaction. Reaction damages calm. But the Stoic pauses and asks, is this the only explanation? Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe it has nothing to do with you at all. Or maybe they truly are disrespectful. Even then, another question matters more. Does this judgment serve my peace or steal it? Calm is not about being right. It is about being unmoved. When you learn to question your judgments, you regain choice. You stop feeding thoughts that inflame emotion. You stop turning moments into mental catastrophes. Here is a simple Stoic exercise you can use immediately. When calm begins to slip, write or think this sentence. The event is for. My judgment about it is or use. Then ask, is this judgment necessary? Is it accurate? Is it useful? Most judgments fail at least one of these tests, and when a judgment fails, you are free to drop it. Dropping judgment does not mean doing nothing. It means acting without emotional distortion. You respond, not react. You decide, not explode. Over time, this practice rewires your mind. You stop assuming the worst. You stop personalizing randomness. You stop letting temporary events define your inner state. Calm becomes stable because it is no longer dependent on outcomes. This is why Stoics appeared steady under pressure, not because life was gentle, but because their judgments were disciplined. Remember this principle. Events are outside your control. Judgments are always yours. When you guard your judgments, you guard your calm. And when your calm is guarded, nothing external can easily disturb you. 3. Pause before you react. Calm is not lost in minutes. It is lost in seconds. A split second where emotion moves faster than reason. A moment where impulse speaks before judgment wakes up. Stoicism trains you to protect that moment, because between stimulus and response, calm is either saved or destroyed. Most people believe reactions are automatic, that once emotion appears, action must follow. The Stoics rejected this idea completely. Epictetus made a crucial distinction. You may not control the first impression, but you always control whether you agree with it. That agreement, that silent yes to emotion, is where calm collapses, and it happens fast. Someone raises their voice. A message feels disrespectful. Something doesn't go your way. Before you realize it, your body is already reacting. Heart rate increases. Muscles tense. Thoughts narrow. This is not weakness. It is biology. But Stoic calm begins when biology is no longer in charge. The pause is how you take command. The pause is not hesitation. It is interruption. It interrupts the chain that links emotion to behavior. Without a pause, emotion becomes action. With a pause, emotion becomes information. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that nothing forces him to respond immediately. Not insults, not delays, not unexpected events. Urgency is an illusion emotion creates. Calm begins the moment you stop believing you must react now. Most people fear the pause. They think silence makes them look weak. They think delay means defeat. They think speed equals strength. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Immediate reaction is predictable. Predictability is control. The pause breaks predictability, and breaking predictability restores authority. Here is the simplest Stoic rule for protecting calm. When triggered, do nothing for 5 seconds. No reply, no explanation, no decision, just 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds feel uncomfortable, because emotion wants expression. But discomfort is the price of mastery. In those 5 seconds, ask one question. Is this reaction necessary? Not, is it justified? Not, do I feel it strongly? Only, is it necessary? Most reactions are not. They add nothing. They solve nothing. They only release tension at the cost of calm. The pause gives reason time to arrive, and reason always asks better questions. Will this matter tomorrow? Does this deserve my energy? What response aligns with my values? Often, the answer is silence, or delay, or a measured response instead of an emotional one. This is how calm becomes consistent, not by suppressing emotion, but by slowing the moment. Over time, the pause becomes a habit. What once required effort becomes automatic. You stop reacting out of reflex. You start responding out of choice. People notice this, not because you announce it, but because you are harder to provoke, harder to rush, harder to destabilize. Calm stops being something you chase. It becomes something you protect. Remember this principle. Emotion moves fast. Calm moves deliberately. The pause is where the two are separated, and the man who learns to pause learns to remain steady, even when everything around him is not. 4. Don't take things personally. Few things destroy calm faster than taking everything personally. A sharp tone feels like an attack. A short reply feels like rejection. A different opinion feels like disrespect. And suddenly, your inner peace depends on other people's moods. Stoicism dismantles this habit at its root. What people do is a reflection of their inner world, not a verdict on your worth. Most people live trapped inside their own fears, stress, and unresolved tension. They speak from habit, react from impulse, and project without awareness. When you take things personally, you absorb what was never meant for you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that when others act poorly, they do so out of ignorance, not as a calculated attack on him. This perspective didn't excuse bad behavior. It protected his calm from unnecessary damage. Here is the Stoic distinction most people miss. Understanding behavior is not the same as tolerating it. You can recognize that someone's words come from their own state without allowing those words to disturb yours. Taking things personally is a form of mental overreach. You assume intention where there may be none. You assume meaning where there may be randomness. You assume importance where there may only be noise. This assumption creates emotional turbulence. Calm disappears not because something happened, but because you placed yourself at the center of it. Stoicism asks you to step back, to see people as they are, not as characters in a story about you. Consider how often this applies in daily life. A coworker is distant. A friend cancels plans. Someone disagrees with you publicly. The mind jumps to conclusions. They don't value me. I've been disrespected. I'm being judged. These thoughts feel convincing, but they are rarely verified, and unverified assumptions are calm's enemy. The Stoic response is simple, but powerful. This is about them, not me. This single sentence restores balance. It removes ego from the equation. It prevents unnecessary emotional investment. It returns your attention to what you can control, your reaction. This does not mean you ignore patterns. If someone consistently disrespects you, Stoicism does not tell you to endure it quietly. It tells you to respond without personalization. Set boundaries calmly. Reduce access deliberately. Walk away without drama. When you don't take things personally, you act from clarity instead of wounded pride. Seneca observed that we suffer more from our interpretations than from events themselves. Personalization is one of the most damaging interpretations because it turns neutral situations into emotional threats. Calm grows when you stop assuming everything is about you, not because you matter less, but because you understand the limits of your responsibility. You are responsible for your actions, your values, your character. You are not responsible for other people's moods, projections, or immaturity. When this distinction becomes clear, calm stabilizes. Criticism loses its sting. Indifference loses its power. Provocation loses its grip. You stop defending yourself against imaginary attacks. You stop explaining yourself to uninterested ears. You stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours. This is a quiet form of freedom. Remember this principle. Not everything that touches you is about you. When you stop personalizing behavior, you stop bleeding calm into other people's chaos. And a mind that no longer takes things personally is far harder to disturb. 5. Control what's yours. Release the rest. Most anxiety, frustration, and loss of calm comes from trying to control what was never yours to command. Other people's behavior, outcomes you can't guarantee, opinions you can't dictate, the past you can't rewrite. Stoicism calls this mistake by its real name: misplaced effort. When you place your energy where you have no authority, calm dissolves. Epictetus built Stoic psychology around one simple division. Some things are within your control and some things are not. Your peace depends on knowing the difference. What is yours to control? Your judgments, your choices, your actions, your values. What is not? Other people, external events, outcomes, recognition, timing. Most people reverse this. They obsess over results. They worry about approval. They try to manage how others feel, and they neglect the one thing that actually belongs to them: their response. This reversal creates constant tension. You feel calm slipping because your mind is fighting a battle it cannot win. Stoicism restores calm by returning effort to the right place, not outward, inward. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he could not control what happened to him, only how he met it. This realization is not limiting, it is freeing. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, your mind quiets. You stop rehearsing arguments that will never happen. You stop worrying about outcomes you cannot force. You stop reacting emotionally to things beyond your reach. Calm begins to stabilize. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become precise. You invest effort only where it can produce results. Here is a Stoic exercise you can use immediately. Take any situation disturbing your calm and divide it into 2 columns. Column 1, what is in my control? Column 2, what is not? Be honest, you may find that most of your stress lives in column 2. That awareness alone reduces tension. Now comes the Stoic move. Commit fully to column 1. Release column 2 without resentment. Release does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to emotionally wrestle with it. You still act, you still plan, you still prepare, but you detach your calm from the outcome. This is how Stoics faced uncertainty without panic. They focused on excellence of action, not guarantee of result. Calm grows when effort and authority are aligned. Consider a common example. You prepare carefully for something important. You show up with integrity and discipline. The result still doesn't go your way. The reactive mind collapses. I failed. I wasn't enough. I lost control. The Stoic mind stays steady. I controlled my effort. The outcome was never mine. That difference preserves calm. It also preserves self-respect, because your worth is no longer tied to results you never owned in the first place. This principle is especially powerful in relationships. You cannot control how others respond to you. You cannot force understanding or appreciation, but you can control clarity. You can control boundaries. You can control how much access you give. When you release the need to manage reactions, interactions become cleaner. You speak honestly without attachment. You walk away without bitterness. You remain calm without explanation. This is Stoic strength. Remember this principle. Your calm lives where your control lives. If you chase it outside yourself, you will never catch it. If you anchor it inside your actions and judgments, it becomes stable. Control what is yours. Release what is not, and calm will follow naturally. 6. Silence is a form of calm. Strength, most people believe calm comes from saying the right thing, explaining, defending, correcting misunderstandings. Stoicism teaches a harder lesson. Calm often comes from saying nothing at all. Not all silence is equal. There is fearful silence, the kind that avoids conflict, and then there is disciplined silence, the kind that protects your inner state. The Stoics practiced the second. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to waste time arguing with people who had no intention of understanding him. His silence was not weakness. It was selectivity. Silence becomes powerful when it is chosen, not forced. A reactive mind feels pressure to respond immediately, to justify itself, to restore control through words, but words spoken in agitation rarely restore calm. They multiply noise. Silence does the opposite. It removes fuel. Think about how many situations escalate because someone insists on the last word. An argument grows louder. Positions harden. Calm disappears completely. The Stoic breaks this cycle by stepping out of it, not by submission, but by refusing to participate where nothing good can grow. This is why silence unsettles reactive people. It gives them no emotional feedback, no confirmation of influence, no proof that they've disturbed your peace. Silence exposes intent. When you stop reacting verbally, patterns become clear. Who respects your boundary? Who pushes harder? Who becomes irritated when they can't provoke you? The Stoic observes these patterns quietly. Words can be manipulated, behavior cannot. Seneca observed that many conflicts exist only because we keep them alive with speech. Silence allows unnecessary conflicts to die naturally. This does not mean you never speak. It means you speak with intention. Stoic silence is not avoidance, it is timing. You choose silence when speaking would weaken your position. You choose words only when they serve clarity or principle. This discipline preserves calm, because every unnecessary explanation drains energy. Every emotional defense tightens tension. Silence keeps your nervous system steady. Consider moments of disrespect. The instinct is to correct immediately, to confront, to reassert yourself. But the Stoic asks, will speaking now increase my authority or reduce it? Often, silence answers that question clearly. Silence communicates confidence without confrontation. It shows you are not dependent on immediate validation, that you trust your actions to speak for you. Over time, this changes how others interact with you, not because you intimidate, but because you are no longer predictable. Predictability is what allows manipulation. When you always react, people learn your triggers. When you choose silence, they lose leverage. This is why disciplined silence feels uncomfortable at first. It denies emotion its release. It denies ego its defense. But discomfort is temporary. Calm is lasting. Here is a Stoic rule worth remembering. If speaking is driven by emotion, delay it. If speaking is driven by principle, deliver it calmly. Silence is not emptiness. It is restraint holding power in reserve. And power held in reserve is far stronger than power wasted impulsively. Remember this principle. You do not need to react to protect your calm. Sometimes silence protects it better than words ever could. When you master silence, you master one of the strongest forms of inner control. And a man who can remain silent by choice cannot be easily disturbed. 7. Expect difficulty, not comfort. One of the fastest ways to lose your calm is to expect life to be easy. When comfort becomes the expectation, every inconvenience feels like an injustice. Every obstacle feels personal. Every difficulty feels overwhelming. Stoicism teaches the opposite mindset. Expect difficulty, and calm becomes natural. The Stoics were not pessimists, they were realists. They understood that resistance, delay, loss, and discomfort are not exceptions to life. They are features of it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would encounter difficult people, ungrateful behavior, and selfish actions, not to harden his heart, but to steady his mind. When difficulty is expected, it loses its power to shock you. Shock is what destroys calm. Think about it. If you expect traffic to be smooth and it isn't, frustration rises. If you expect people to be fair and they aren't, anger follows. If you expect plans to work perfectly and they don't, anxiety appears. But when you expect difficulty, the same events feel manageable. Not pleasant, but normal. Stoicism trains you to remove surprise from hardship, and without surprise, calm remains intact. This is why Stoics practiced negative visualization. Not to dwell on loss, but to prepare the mind. They imagined obstacles in advance so that when those obstacles appeared, their nervous system did not panic. Calm is easier to maintain when the mind has already rehearsed difficulty. Epictetus taught that events do not disturb us. Our unpreparedness does. Expectation is preparation. When you expect comfort, you relax your vigilance. When difficulty arrives, calm collapses. When you expect difficulty, you stay grounded. And when challenges appear, you remain steady. This mindset changes how you move through the world. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "This was always possible. How do I handle it well?" That question preserves calm. Expecting difficulty does not mean you seek suffering. It means you stop demanding special treatment from reality. You understand that frustration is the tax of being alive. Delay is part of progress. Resistance is part of growth. And because you expect these things, they no longer feel like personal attacks. This principle is especially powerful in human interaction. People will disappoint you. They will misunderstand you. They will act from fear, ego, and insecurity. If you expect constant fairness, you will live irritated. If you expect imperfection, you will live calm. Expectations shape emotional response. Lower expectations of comfort. Raise standards of conduct. You remain calm not because others behave well, but because you anticipated that they might not. Here is a simple Stoic practice. At the start of the day, quietly remind yourself, something will not go as planned today. Say it without bitterness. Say it without dread. Just acknowledge it. Then add, "and I will handle it calmly." This mental rehearsal removes emotional volatility. When something does go wrong, you are not shocked. You are ready. Calm does not come from a smooth life. It comes from a prepared mind. When you expect comfort, calm becomes fragile. When you expect difficulty, calm becomes resilient. Remember this principle. What you expect no longer controls you. Difficulty stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like terrain. And a man who understands the terrain moves through it without losing his balance. 8. Calm comes from discipline, not mood. Most people wait to feel calm before they act calmly. They wait for motivation, for the right mood, for external conditions to improve. Stoicism calls this a mistake. Calm is not a feeling you wait for. It is a discipline you practice. Moods are unstable by nature. They rise and fall based on sleep, stress, hormones, weather, and circumstance. If your calm depends on mood, it will disappear the moment life becomes inconvenient. The Stoics understood this clearly. Marcus Aurelius did not rely on feeling ready. He relied on routine, duty, and consistency. His calm came from structure, not inspiration. Discipline creates predictability. Predictability stabilizes the mind. When your actions are governed by habit, your emotions lose their power to derail you. Most people do the opposite. They act when they feel good. They withdraw when they feel off. They react when emotions spike. This keeps calm fragile. Stoicism reverses the order. Act first, feelings follow. When you practice calm behavior consistently, your nervous system adapts. Breathing slows more easily, thoughts settle faster, reactions soften, calm becomes trained. Epictetus taught that freedom comes from discipline, not indulgence. The undisciplined man is ruled by mood. The disciplined man is ruled by principle. This principle applies everywhere. If you only speak calmly when you feel calm, you will often fail. If you train yourself to speak calmly regardless of mood, calm becomes your default. Discipline removes negotiation. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like staying calm right now?" You ask, "What does my standard require?" Standards are steadier than emotions. This is why Stoics emphasize daily practice, not heroic acts, but small, repeatable behaviors. Waking at a consistent time, training the body even when energy is low, journaling thoughts instead of reacting to them, maintaining posture and breath under stress. These practices condition calm. They teach the body that chaos does not equal panic. Over time, mood loses authority. You still feel emotions, but they no longer dictate behavior. This is the difference between temporary calm and reliable calm. Reliable calm does not depend on how your day starts. It does not vanish under pressure. It does not require perfect conditions. It shows up because it has been rehearsed. Here is a simple Stoic rule. Never decide how to act based on how you feel. Decide based on who you choose to be. This rule preserves calm when motivation disappears. Because motivation always disappears, discipline remains. Consider moments when calm matters most. Conflict, fatigue, stress, provocation. These are exactly the moments when mood is least reliable. That is why discipline matters. Calm men are not calm because they feel peaceful. They are calm because they have practiced restraint when peace was unavailable. This practice compounds. One disciplined response makes the next easier. One controlled moment builds confidence. One steady reaction reinforces identity. You stop saying, "I'm trying to stay calm." You start saying, "This is how I operate." And identity stabilizes behavior. Remember this principle. Mood is temporary. Discipline is dependable. If you want calm that lasts, build routines that support it. Train your body, structure your day, anchor your responses. Calm is not something you wait for. It is something you earn through repetition. 9. Let go of needing approval. Few things disturb calm more than the need to be approved of, to be liked, to be understood, to be validated. When your peace depends on how others see you, your calm becomes fragile. Stoicism cuts this dependence at the root. The moment you seek approval, you hand others authority over your inner state. Approval seeking is subtle. It hides behind politeness, behind over-explaining, behind the urge to justify your choices. But beneath it lies fear. The fear of being misunderstood, rejected, or judged. Epictetus warned that if you want to be invincible, you must stop placing your happiness in what others can grant or take away. Approval is exactly that kind of trap. It makes calm conditional. If praise comes, you feel steady. If criticism appears, calm collapses. This creates emotional volatility. The Stoic rejects this entirely, not because approval is evil, but because it is unreliable. People change their opinions, they misunderstand, they project their own insecurities. Basing your calm on their reactions is like building on shifting sand. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the opinions of others were noise, fleeting, inconsistent, and beyond his control. What mattered was acting in alignment with reason and virtue. When you let go of needing approval, something important happens. You stop performing. You stop adjusting yourself for applause. You stop explaining your decisions to uninterested ears. Calm returns because your actions are no longer under constant review. This does not mean becoming rude or indifferent. It means becoming internally referenced. You measure yourself by standards, not by reactions. Consider how often calm is lost in conversation. You say something honest. Someone disagrees. The urge to defend appears. That urge is not about truth. It is about approval. The Stoic asks a better question. Did I speak from principle? If the answer is yes, calm is preserved, regardless of response. This principle is especially powerful in leadership, relationships, and personal growth. You cannot grow if you require constant approval. You cannot lead if you fear disapproval. You cannot stay calm if every opinion feels like a verdict. Releasing approval, seeking frees energy. You speak less, but more clearly. You explain less, but act more consistently. You react less, because nothing is being threatened. Here is a simple Stoic practice. Before speaking or acting, ask, am I doing this to be approved of, or because it aligns with my values? If the answer is approval, pause. If the answer is principle, proceed calmly. This filter removes emotional noise. It also reveals something important. Most people who criticize you are not living by clear standards themselves. Their opinions are reflections, not measurements. When you understand this, calm stabilizes. Criticism loses weight. Praise loses control. Silence becomes comfortable. You no longer rush to be seen. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You trust your own compass. This trust is quiet, but powerful. Remember this principle. Approval is optional. Self-respect is not. When you stop seeking approval, you stop surrendering calm to external voices, and a man who governs himself by values cannot be easily disturbed by opinion. 10. Train your body to support your mind. Many people try to stay calm using thought alone. They analyze, they rationalize, they repeat affirmations, and then they wonder why calm collapses under pressure. Stoicism understands something modern culture often forgets. The mind does not operate independently of the body. If the body is tense, exhausted, or overstimulated, the mind struggles to remain steady. Calm is not just a mental skill, it is a physiological state. Marcus Aurelius wrote about discipline of the body as part of discipline of the mind. He trained himself to endure discomfort, not to suffer, but to remain composed when conditions were unfavorable. A weak body amplifies emotional volatility. A trained body absorbs stress. This is why calm disappears fastest when you are tired, hungry, overstimulated, or physically tense. Your thoughts may be rational, but your nervous system is overwhelmed. Stoicism does not fight this reality. It works with it. When the body is regulated, the mind follows. This is why Stoics emphasized simple physical practices. Walking, cold exposure, controlled breathing, minimalism in comfort, not for toughness alone, but for stability. Epictetus taught that endurance of the body strengthens command of the mind. When you voluntarily train discomfort, unexpected discomfort loses its power. Consider how physical tension fuels emotional reaction. Shallow breathing increases anxiety. Poor posture feeds irritability. Chronic fatigue lowers patience. These are not moral failures. They are biological signals. Calm becomes easier when you remove unnecessary strain. Here is where Stoic practice becomes practical. Start with breath. Slow, controlled breathing tells the nervous system that there is no immediate threat. A simple Stoic rhythm. Inhale for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6 seconds. Repeat for 1 minute. This ratio activates calm faster than any argument in your head. Next, posture. A collapsed body signals defeat and stress. An upright body signals readiness and control. You don't need stiffness, just alignment. Head level, shoulders relaxed, chest open. The body informs the mind before the mind speaks back. Movement matters as well. Regular physical training is not optional for Stoic calm. It burns excess stress hormones. It increases resilience. It teaches the body that effort does not equal panic. You don't need extreme routines. Consistency matters more than intensity. Train the body to handle load, and the mind learns to stay present under pressure. Sleep is another pillar often ignored. Lack of rest weakens emotional regulation. It narrows patience. It amplifies irritation. Stoic discipline includes respect for recovery, not indulgence, but preparation. A tired mind cannot remain calm for long. When you train your body deliberately, something changes. Calm stops feeling fragile. Stress stops feeling overwhelming. Pressure becomes manageable. Not because life is easier, but because your system is stronger. This principle is especially important in moments of provocation. Before reacting mentally, check physically. Are you breathing shallow? Is your jaw clenched? Is your posture collapsed? Adjust the body, and the emotional spike often dissolves on its own. This is not suppression, it is regulation. Remember this principle. A regulated body creates a steady mind. If you want calm that lasts, train more than your thoughts. Train your breath. Train your posture. Train your endurance. Because when the body is grounded, the mind finds it much harder to panic. 11. Remember how small most things are. Many things feel overwhelming only because you are standing too close to them. A comment feels massive. A mistake feels permanent. A problem feels like everything. Stoicism teaches you to step back. Perspective is one of the fastest ways to restore calm. Most emotional disturbance comes from zooming in too far. When the mind narrows, small events grow teeth. Minor issues feel catastrophic. Temporary problems feel final. The Stoics trained themselves to zoom out. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of how brief life is, how small individual events are within the larger flow of time, and how little most things matter in the long arc of existence. This was not nihilism, it was grounding. When you widen perspective, calm returns. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, in a year, in 10 years? Most things dissolve under that light. The mind exaggerates when it feels threatened. Perspective corrects that exaggeration. Stoicism does not deny pain or difficulty. It simply refuses to magnify it beyond proportion. Consider how often calm is lost over things that pass quickly. An awkward moment, a missed opportunity, a brief conflict, a temporary setback. At the time, they feel enormous. Later, they barely register. The Stoic brings that later perspective into the present. Epictetus taught that when you see events as small and fleeting, they lose the power to disturb your inner state. Perspective shrinks panic. This principle is especially powerful when emotions spike. Anger narrows focus. Anxiety accelerates time. Fear magnifies consequences. All three distort reality. The Stoic corrects distortion by zooming out. One effective Stoic practice is this. Imagine observing your current problem from far above, as if looking down on your life from a distance. You see yourself moving through time. You see countless moments passing. You see this problem as one dot among many. The emotional intensity drops, not because the problem disappears, but because it is no longer everything. Another Stoic tool is cosmic perspective. The universe has existed for billions of years. Entire civilizations have risen and vanished. Most names are forgotten. Your current irritation is not the center of reality. This realization humbles the ego, and ego is what often fuels emotional disturbance. Calm increases when ego decreases. This does not mean your life lacks meaning. It means meaning does not depend on every moment going perfectly. Stoics understood that calm is incompatible with self-importance. The more seriously you take every slight, every inconvenience, every outcome, the more fragile your peace becomes. Perspective restores balance. It reminds you that mistakes are survivable, embarrassment fades, loss reshapes but does not end you. When you remember how small most things are, you stop catastrophizing. You stop narrating disaster where there is inconvenience. You stop inflating setbacks into identity, and calm stabilizes. Here is a simple question to use when disturbed. Is this worth my inner peace? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. Perspective helps you choose calm without denial. You still act. You still correct mistakes. You still address problems. But you do so without emotional inflation. You respond as a steady observer, not a panicked participant. Remember this principle. What feels overwhelming up close often looks manageable from a distance. Step back. Widen the lens. When you do, most things shrink to their proper size, and calm takes their place. 12. Practice. Calm daily, not occasionally. Most people treat calm like an emergency tool. They reach for it only when things fall apart. When emotions spike, when pressure becomes unbearable. Stoicism teaches a different discipline. Calm is not something you summon in crisis. It is something you train before crisis arrives. Calm that is practiced occasionally will fail you when you need it most. Calm that is practiced daily becomes instinct. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius did not wait for chaos to reflect. He trained his mind every day, in the morning before the world intruded, and at night before sleep. Calm was not an accident. It was a routine. This is where most people fall short. They read philosophy, they agree with it, they feel inspired. Then they return to old habits. Stoicism is not impressed by understanding alone. It demands repetition. Calm is built the same way strength is built, through consistent, unglamorous practice. Not once a week, not when convenient, but daily. This principle ties everything together: acceptance, judgment, pause, perspective, discipline, silence. None of these work reliably without repetition. The nervous system learns through exposure. When you practice calm only in theory, your body defaults to old patterns under stress. When you practice calm daily, your body recognizes pressure as familiar, not threatening. Epictetus taught that philosophy is training for life, not decoration for the mind. A tool unused becomes useless. Daily practice turns calm into identity. You stop asking, "How can I stay calm right now?" You start saying, "This is how I respond." Here is a simple Stoic structure you can use every day. In the morning, set intention. Ask one question: what could test my calm today? Not to worry, but to prepare. Visualize responding with steadiness. This removes surprise. During the day, practice the pause. When emotion rises, even slightly, pause. Not perfectly, just consistently. Every pause reinforces control. In the evening, review honestly. Ask yourself, where did I stay calm? Where did I react? What can I do better tomorrow? No self-attack, no guilt, just clarity. This reflection compounds. Day by day, calm becomes familiar. Triggers weaken, reactions slow, judgment sharpens. Over time, you realize something important. You're no longer fighting for calm, you're operating from it. This is the Stoic ideal. Not a life without difficulty, but a life where difficulty does not shake you. Calm stops being fragile. It stops depending on silence, comfort, or control. It becomes portable. You carry it into conflict, into uncertainty, into pressure. And when others panic, you remain steady. Not because you are superior, but because you trained. Remember this final principle. Calm is not a destination. It is a daily discipline. Practice it when nothing is wrong, so that when something is, you do not have to search for it. A calm mind, trained daily, is one of the strongest things a human being can possess, and once built, it cannot be easily taken from you. Calm is an unbreakable advantage. You've just walked through 12 principles that most people never practice consistently. Not techniques to escape life, but disciplines to face it without losing yourself. You learned that calm begins with acceptance, that judgments shape emotion, that the pause protects power, that silence, discipline, perspective, and self-command are not weaknesses. They are advantages. The Stoics never promised a life without pressure. They trained for a life within pressure. Because the world will always try to pull at you, with noise, with provocation, with uncertainty. Calm is what keeps you from being dragged. When you stop letting everything affect you, you don't become indifferent. You become deliberate. You act with clarity instead of impulse. You respond with reason instead of emotion. You move through chaos without absorbing it. This is what calm truly is. Not softness, not passivity, but inner authority. Remember this: nothing outside you has power unless you grant it permission. Choose your judgments carefully. protect your pauses. Practice calm daily. And if this message resonated with you, write this in the comments. Not for others, but for yourself. I choose calm. Stay disciplined, stay grounded, and stay unshaken.